Hi, everyone. I'm Patty Tucker. I'm the one that uh, created this JumpStart Bridge material. I hope you're using and I hope is a lot of fun. This particular video is about your teacher's material, your manual, giving you an idea about some of the features of it, some of the things that you can find in it, and hopefully giving you some clarification. So let's get started. I apologize ahead of time if I'm not real fluid and going back and forth on PDFs. Sometimes I do really well and sometimes not so much. So the very first thing in your teacher material is the player workbook. So that's the actual workbook that your students have. Their review worksheets, and then it starts with your teacher's guide and your resource materials. One of the things you can see is that the player workbook is very much a workbook. It's not a textbook. This is to give them the ideas that you're talking to them about in the class or doing with the PowerPoint. Remember, you do have a PowerPoint video and places for them to fill in the blanks and make notes. So it's very much designed for them to put into their own words whatever they have learned from you. We have found that they tend to do better if they're working themselves. One of the things they also have is a glossary of bridge terms. They're not going to learn all of these all at one time. But as you go through the class, they will learn all of them eventually. Many of the things on here they don't learn until class 5 or 6. Don't worry about that. This card distribution table is about the percentages of how the cards will be distributed amongst your opponents based on the number of cards that you hold and the number that they hold. These review worksheets, if you only have 30-minute classes or 45-minute classes, what you might want to do is tell them that's like their homework and ask them to try and do the review close to their second class, for instance. It would serve as a way to remind them of what they learned in the first week. However, you want to do that is up to you. If you have an hour class, you might want them to do the class 1 review. When they come into class 2, give them, say, okay, let's do this class 1 review. Go over, let's think about what we did last week. That's totally up to you. There's a class review for each of the classes. Here is your teacher guide starts. It starts on about page 63. If you notice, you have these first 4 classes, and it says mini bridge, I-card points in mini bridge. In these first 4 classes, they are learning about the mechanics of the game, how the game is scored, and how that influences their strategy. They learn something called high card points, which is needed for bidding, and mini bridge. So there's 3 parts of bridge: the bidding, the play, and the scoring. And the bidding is or can be very complex. Mini bridge is the play and the scoring. I'm a firm believer that people should learn something about the scoring because of how it influences the strategy and influences your bidding. The bidding has several pieces in it that feel like, why do I have to do that? Why can't I do something else? Well, it's all about the scoring. It's the strategy of trying to get the best score that you can get for every hand you play. So if you don't understand how the scoring works and how that makes your strategy, the bidding just becomes memorization. So I like to have that right up front. If you find that after you get through these first 4 classes that you feel like the kids just have had enough, they don't want any more details, they're starting to get a little tired of us talking all the time, they just want to play, then what you could do is go from class 4, class 7, and 8, the play techniques, playing what we call a no trump hand and playing a trump contract. Those are the 2 types of hands that you might play. That would allow them to practice what they've already learned, still learn something new, and there's a lot of math and probability based in your play techniques, so you're still going to be teaching them things. And then come back to the bidding like at the last 2 classes. If after class 4, they're all excited, they want to learn more, and they're loving it, well, just keep with the plan and go ahead and start the bidding. The bidding can be a little intricate, the new way of thinking, so they might find that challenging. It's up to you to decide how your class is and where you think they need to go from there. Each class has kind of an introductory page, what supplies you're going to need for that class. These pre-dealt hand boards. These boards are duplicate boards. You've got some in your starter kit, and there's a video on this website about showing you what a board is. Actually, everything in your starter kit. That's those. There's also a video about card holders. If your students need card holders, if it's hard for them to hold 13 cards, there's instructions on how to make a card holder out of a Reynolds wrap box. You can buy card holders as well. I don't think that those are very good, most of them. They're a little flimsy, especially for students. They're built for adults. So what might happen if you use some of the card holders that are built for adults is when they're reaching over, they'll knock them over and things like that. So again, up to y'all. It's really interesting that some of the kids feel like using a card holder. It's like they're not grown up if they use a card holder. So they'll suffer through having to sort through their cards multiple times, not have to do that. Your objectives and your learning points. Then there's an outline, and the outline times out how long I think each of the segments will take. If you notice, playing the first hand, I have 22 minutes, and that's about right. It takes them a long time the first time they play a hand. They're a little uneasy and unsure about what cards they want to play or what they want to do. You'll notice as the classes progress, they will get faster and faster and faster. If you only have 30 minutes, then it's easy to just have them play that first hand and do a wrap up on that first hand and not go into practice and playing the second hand. That would get you right at about 35, 37 minutes. You can cut your introduction a little shorter, only give them 20 minutes to play the hand. There's ways to make up a couple of minutes. I'll also be happy to help you if you need to, like half the classes. I'll give you some ideas here, but I can also help you further along. And then your guide is what I would say. This is, if I'm teaching a class, this is what the words I would say. This is how I would introduce concepts. In the blue bolded are vocabulary. They are regular words that you use all the time in your life, but in Bridge they have a special meaning. So it's like learning new vocabulary. I know that all of you know how to teach. You have ways that you like to do things. You're more familiar with your students than I am, for sure. I didn't intend this as a script for you. I just intended it as to give you some ideas about how I introduce concepts and things like that. There's also a video of every class. If you want to look at those, it's just kind of so how is she presenting this material kind of. And there's one of those for every class. And then starting at 107 are your resource material. This is like a reference chart. Front and back is how we did it. We laminate them. You can do whatever you want. But it gives them some of the pertinent information after they've gone through the whole class. There are things that they can learn now and things they can't learn or use until later. Here, things to ask yourself as you plan your line of play. That is the tips on playing a handout. This section, levels needed for game. This is useful in class 3 and 4, the strategy and the scoring. Much of this bidding, not until class 5 or 6. How you think that the cards will break between your opponent's hand might be useful in class even 2 or 3. It's just some of the pertinent information done into sheets that we hope will be used. These are what we call hand records. These are the cards that are in for like boards 1 through 4. These are the cards we anticipate. If you look at these cards in board 1 and go back to here, this is those hands. This north, south hand and east and west hand match the hand that you saw on that. Those 4 hands are the same hands here. So what happens is if you take the time to set the boards up, those plastic boards, and put the spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs noted on this board into that north pocket, etc., etc., etc. And the kids play the hand, then you can have them pull the cards out at the end of the hand and look at the cards and talk about things that happened, what they could have done differently, etc., etc. I have found it very useful for the kids to lay the hands back out and see the hands as you're talking rather than look at it in the book. Some will do better in a book, and that's fine. But some having the cards on the table is much more interesting and helps them focus much better. There's also a video called Calling the Cards. You'll see a page on that in just a moment. If you just don't have time to put all of these hands in all of those boards, there's a way that you can get the kids to do it for you. These challenges you may encounter, these are just things that I've had come up in classes that I know might become problems for you, or things you'll have to answer, or things you'll notice. I tried to give you some idea of things to look for. Like here, some kids would start to play their cards counterclockwise, just kind of as you're wandering through the room, make sure it's all going clockwise. That's the way it goes in bridge. Calling the cards, excuse me, is the way that you can use for the kids to create the hands and the boards for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. One of the things that happens is the cards, the deck has to be sorted into suits, all the spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs. What you can also do, if you're going to call the cards and have the kids create the hands for you, at the end of each class, once you're done with the boards, you can save yourself a couple of minutes and ask them to sort all the spades together, hearts, diamonds, and clubs, and put them face up in the pockets already sorted for next week. That'll help you a bit. This is one of my favorite things that I created, and it was the poster about how you behave at bridge. I printed this out as like a 24 by 36 and put it on the wall. It is important for, I think, everyone, and in bridge, we're pretty specific about it, that you are supposed to be courteous. You are competitive, but you're supposed to be courteous to your partner and your opponent. And one of the things to remind the kids is that you are playing with a partner. If you criticize your partner, aren't supportive, and they get down in the dumps or get upset, or there's a little friction going on, they're not going to play as well as they might if they feel confident and comfortable and at ease. So it's to their advantage, other than just good sportsmanship, it's to their personal advantage to be supportive to your partner. And I think that's a good life lesson as well. When you're in a business, you have a team, you support that team and you help them become better and you help them improve, and that improves for you. The next thing is a bingo card. It was a little game that I played it with the kids that I taught, and then I ended up playing it with my adults as well. It was amazing. I thought it would be, I just tried it with them one time. I said maybe they'd like it too. They win stars. I had stars like you put on papers. I used to get gold stars. Well, I hope I get gold stars on my papers. I thought the kids might like it. So I came up with words or concepts that would match the letters in bingo. You could change that if you want. And they would get stars when they got something right. And I did tell them, if you have already learned something, just because you got it right the second time doesn't mean you're going to get a star. But perhaps there's something that you already know, but someone else has been struggling with, and they finally got it. They're getting a star. I told them that I was the only person who could award stars. It was at my sole discretion. If they got a straight line, they could they could win a prize. And if they got a complete card covered, they could get a bigger prize. Now, when I'm talking about a prize, I'm talking about a bridge pencil, an eraser, a pen, something like that. I've got lots of ideas for prizes. Bigger prizes might have been a deck of cards, that type of thing. I'm happy to help you with that if you think it's a good idea and think the kids would like it. And the last piece was a certificate for the completion of the class. ACBL also has a certificate in your starter kit. You're welcome to use those. If you like this one, you're welcome to use this one. When I was creating the material, I just came up with that. That's what we used for my group, Atlanta Junior Group. So I hope this was helpful. I'm always happy to answer questions if you have a group and everyone has some questions. I'm happy to set up a Zoom call and meet with all of you or meet with one of you on a Zoom call. I do still actively teach. and I do have some things scheduled, but certainly we can find a time to talk and let me help you if there's anything you need. Thanks so much. I'm sorry if I talked too long, but hopefully you could just fast forward through the things that weren't relative for you.